How many of you administer EOWs, ROWs? Quite a few? Okay. How many of you get them from people who have administered them or use them in any of your, okay. There's a lot more we could talk about with this. I feel like the perception has always been that they're very simple, right? They're a vocabulary test. You have them point at one of the four pictures, you write down what they say, you take their score, you're done. What I ran into yesterday, go ahead and keep going. I realize this will be hard to read. Just stick with me. If you have questions or whatever, we can talk about this more. Okay, so these were the scores that were reported to me, okay? I have a student that I'm assessing. The teacher had been instructed to give the EOW and ROW to all of her students. So she was very obedient, very conscientious. She did that. These are the scores that were reported to me. This is what we had last year. And I always write up a testing summary to kind of be able to, a big part of an SLP job is like figuring out the diagnostics, right? What are we seeing? And interpreting what the numbers are. So I get the numbers. I have some things with asterisks. We'll talk about that in a second. But is there anything there on the EOW that stands out to you as huge?
The EOW ROW, you can give it within 6 months, right? Like 6 months and a year.
There's not like a specific anything in the manual, but yeah, 6 months is the most. Yeah.
So I was gonna say the year is off.
Right. Okay, so this is not a quiz, but it is an exercise in just noticing things. And that's really what came up with what I was doing. First of all, these asterisks are there because of something I found out at the very end. Okay, and we'll get to that point. But the date of testing is September, and I did it last year in October. But the age years that I had reported was 4 years, 9 months. And this year, a year later, 5 years, 9 months. But is it really a year later? It's not. I didn't put her date of birth on here just for privacy, but it was the same. This one's wrong. Should have been 4 years, 10 months. In our system, the birth date was incorrect. Okay, so one thing I'll say is just because it's in PowerSchool doesn't mean it's right. So last year, I pulled a birth date off of PowerSchool that gave me a 1 month difference in her birth date. Would that generally on most of our assessments make a difference? Probably not. The EOW and ROW, they have different age bands for standard scores, right? So like from year 4 to 411, you have like 5 age bands in there. They're only a 2 month window. Then from age 5 to 511, it's like a 3 month age band. So what this in fact did is bumped her into the higher age band. So her standard score last year should not have been an 89. It should have been an 86, okay? Her percentile shouldn't have been 23, it should have been 18. So last year we have inflated scores based on an incorrect birth date. What impact does that have? Obviously, we know, now we're looking at an inflated score, maybe we have a drop or whatever. But the other issue is that with the rounding, I know it says on the form, do not round up if days exceed 15, right? Don't round up in months. That's the impact. If you receive a test and those people have rounded up in that age bracket and it bumps them to another age bracket, your standard score is now off. So be aware of that when you're getting those and just kind of take a peek at those numbers. If something seems weird, I'll show you why we even got here. Go to the next one, Adam. So nothing on that one was, oops, go to the next one. No, sorry. Oh, there we go. ROW. Okay, so anything weird on this one now that you know about the 4 years, 9 months? I mean, like anything concerning there?
Significant difference.
Significantly different. So we had a standard score of 98 was in my records with a standard score of 87 this year. That's a problem for me. We had a raw score of 57 last year. We had a raw score, actually, that's not even correct. Yes, sorry, that's what was reported, was a raw score of 55 for this year. I think, might be wrong on that, might be a 54. Anyway, the standard scores were right. So when I see that, rather than just knowing it's gonna end up on an IP somewhere, I want to know, what do I see between those tests that could be accounting for this difference? Did this student really not progress? Did she, in fact, really only, now, what do we do on an ROW? We're pointing, right? Can your kids have a good guessing day?
Yeah.
Right? You can have a good guessing day. You can be a little off, whatever. Your teacher maybe just talked about one of the terms, the year before that was on the test, so you remembered it a little bit easier. There's a lot of reasons why that could be the case, but not accounting for a standard score difference of 11, okay? So that's why I started looking at the protocols to begin with. I got the protocols. Adam, can you go to that one that has the protocol? I know this is very difficult for you to see, but what I want to just point out here is a few things that drew my attention. The first thing is again, I told you this teacher was she was really doing what she was told to do, and she did as much as she could, but she stopped right here. Okay, so she stopped at the end of this age bracket. So with the EBT and PPBT, we administer those by brackets, right? By age ranges. Okay, and you have to give the whole age bracket before you stop and get your ceiling. That's not as it is on this test, but she didn't understand that, and so she had stopped here and didn't have 6 out of 8 incorrect. Okay, so that is the one thing on the ROW. We need a 6 out of 8 incorrect.
It's consecutive.
Nope, not on ROW.
No, but EOW.
EOW.
Yeah.
This is ROW.
Yeah.
So this is the one that we had the big difference
I
on.
hope this isn't mine, by the way.
No, and I'm telling you, you guys really, I'm not kidding. This was like a really good effort, a really conscientious effort, and there was just a lack of training, okay? And understanding of some of these things that are really specific to these assessments that we don't see in some of the others. So we stop on the ROW and EOW when you hit that ceiling, right? You don't have to do the next age bracket. So we had stopped here, which meant we needed to keep going, okay, to get a ceiling. We hadn't reached a ceiling yet. So we did that. That gave her an additional 2 correct. The other thing that happened on the ROW, which I didn't realize, okay, so you pick their age to start with generally, unless you know a kid's really low and you might choose a bracket lower, right? So she did that. She started here. I didn't realize in everything we were looking at that we had 2 errors up here, so we didn't go backwards, okay? Now it was the understanding that then you would go back this whole bracket. You don't go back the whole bracket. You start where they missed, from where you have correct answers, and you go back until you reach that basal of 8. But are we all familiar with the highest basal rule on the EOW and ROW? Anybody?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what your basal rule is on.
Okay,
I could tell you did one on my
If you
test.
go.
It's
if
down
you
here.
Go back all the way, then you don't have to have the 8.
You
No.
get the highest.
okay, so do you guys always look at this summary of instructions? Like we review that, right? We don't give these tests every day. So we review this and we start giving the test. Well, down here, in this little asterisk, it says, if more than one ceiling or basal is established, use the lowest ceiling and the highest basal. When you look at this test, I know you can't see it very well, I apologize. The highest basal is right here. She had 8 correct in a row up here. So when you use the highest basal, everything that was missed before that point does not count against you. So in fact, she had 1, 2, 3 errors that didn't count against her, that were included in her original raw score. I think I maybe hit all of those things. Can you go to the next one, Adam? Sorry, I've gone 8 minutes,
When
9
I'm
minutes.
giving these, because I always forget which is which, I actually circle at the bottom the 6 out of 8 or 8 consecutive.
Yeah.
Every time, just to like spark my memory.
Right.
But I always circle it when I start the test.
These are all things we know when we're doing this all the time, but I think it's easy to forget, especially at the beginning of the year. That, okay, remember this one has a highest basal. And I want to show you the impact of these things that really don't seem very significant, right? We're talking about 3 targets. 3 targets on the one end, but 2 targets on the other end that she didn't get credit for. So we went from a raw score of 55 to a raw score of 60. And what does that change? These are the actual scores. On the EOW, after going through, I didn't show you the protocol for that, but after correcting for some things on the EOW, we have a raw score of 54, a standard score of 86. Confidence intervals are really important, and that goes to my job in kind of interpreting what does this mean. Raw score on the ROW, her standard score went from, I think it was an 85, I don't remember what it was, about an 85 to a 91, and 23rd percentile. If we took you back to what they were, I'll just tell you what they were. Last year, the corrected standard score based on her age would have been a 96. So we've now gone from an 11-point differential to a 5-point differential. That's a lot easier for us to work with.
So sorry, are you
Yes.
saying BASEL? Like, what are you saying, basal? Like
BASAL.
Okay, and what, like, that's the baseline?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Sorry. We're like, what is this?
And I know I
mean?
talked fast. I'm already over time
I just want
again.
this on the
Allison, I feel your
recording
pain.
right?
So last year was a 96 standard score on the ROW, and this year is a 91. I'm okay with that based on the confidence interval, okay? It's an ROW, it's a guessing test when you get at those higher levels, and we could have been at the higher end of her true score this year and at the lower end of her true score last year, or reverse. You know what I'm trying to say. So I'm okay with that. Any questions about that? Yeah.
I feel like I have all the questions.
No.
Confidence interval,
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure is that how I felt the test went, or if
No.
the student felt confident?
Do you know where to find that?
Sure.
On the back.
Will you get me that paper, Melissa?
I know
It's
where to
saying
find
that
it, I'm just not
it's
sure.
accurate within this range. So
But there's a 90%.
There's a 90% and a 95%.
Yeah.
So if you are like, whoo, man, that kid was on and they were not guessing, like they clearly were responding, maybe you go 95%. I really don't ever go 95%. I'm like, there's enough error margin that, yeah, 90% is where we go. But on the back of your form, down here, it gives you your confidence interval calculations. It may not matter to you, but it might matter to me.
It matters to the site who takes all your stuff and all there is a percentage. And I'm like, this means nothing to me. I
So
mean,
help
it means
us
something,
understand-
but not much.
How it should be just important to us as it is you.
It should be important to you, but you don't have to interpret it. Does that make sense?
Well,
So you should be able to look at the numbers and understand what the numbers are reflecting and be able to say, okay, the confidence intervals overlap, so I'm gonna feel okay with that. You know, maybe last year her confidence interval was like an 82 to a 94. Well, that 86 to 94 would overlap. I feel okay with that. I'm 90% confident her true score lies within that range. And that range differs based on their age, and that's on the back of your form. So I think we got it all in. The only other thing I would like to just hit really, really fast is, I kind of have a PowerPoint we can share. Like I said, I just threw things together. Is if we administer with ASL, because that is something that I've also run into as I was looking at some of the assessments yesterday, is a student who responded in ASL but didn't respond with voice, or the teacher gave it in ASL and they were able to identify it, but they were not able to identify it with voice. Or maybe the teacher gave it in ASL, but the student responded with voice. I mean, whatever it is, what do we do with those scores? Any ideas on what you've seen?
it's normed for spoken language.
It's normed for spoken language.
You're not gonna get a normed score, so either don't score it and you go based off the raw score and compare that from year to year.
Right.
Or you have to mark it wrong because it wasn't normalized.
Right,
You
so
wanna do a norm score.
if it's a student that is a spoken language student that I'm trying to get a spoken language assessment for, I'm marking it incorrect, but I am putting on my form, and this is where I say as the SLPs, if they need to go back and do this, like go back and look and see what are the errors, like what happened here. It's really critical to be able to know, they didn't know it in spoken language, but they knew it in ASL. And so let me see if year over year that changes at all with some of the interventions we're doing. So report it as a raw score, track it as a raw score, but don't report it as a standard score. And if you do have any of those occasions where you maybe have given it in spoken language and then they don't get it, and so you give the ASL to see if they understand that, please document that, and then maybe in this comment box, be like, this is the standard score reported is their standard score based on standardized administration, which is spoken language only, but their raw score, and this is our raw score with that, but they also responded to an additional 10 questions with ASL correctly. That's really good information for all of us to have. So don't eliminate it, but just characterize it appropriately. Okay, I'm sorry, I now went over,
You're good.
but I'm done.
I just added this, thank you. Sorry. Introductions, let's do it. Who do we have here? I'm Adam. What are some questions we want to ask everybody? Where am I from? I live in Payson. I serve in all of you. I have we have 22 school districts in Dev South, and I visited every single one of them at one point. I have, not this year. And I'm also over online learning and a classroom in Price and a school, small, portable in St. George. That kind of rules my life. Let's say who we are and what our assignment are and where we work, okay? So we'll start at this table here, and we'll just kind of go in a swath. You know what a swath is? It's like a big farm swather. It's a big lawnmower. We'll start here, and we'll go like this across. Go ahead.
Help it teach vocabulary.
Yeah, you gotta know what it is, right? What's a funch? All right, everybody, send in your definitions for funch. We'll vote on it. Go ahead.
All right. Tyler Sorensen, audiology, and cover North South West.
Awesome. Welcome, Tyler. Oh, and please speak louder so they can hear you.
I'm Devin Christensen, audiologist. My caseload is KBS and Weber District. So, yeah.
Awesome. Both of them. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Rachel Perry. I am an outreach teacher for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in Washington County. And we quite often say St. George, but it's Washington County School District, which it covers St. George proper, and then Ivan, Santa Clara, Hilldale, Hurricane, Enterprise, all those towns down there.
I'm Joni McDonald, and I'm an outreach teacher, and I work for Grand School in Grand School District and San Juan School District, so that's like the Moab area, and down in the southeastern corner of the state.
I'm Amber Sidwell, and I'm in Jordan School District, which is in the West Jordan area.
I'm Lexi Pine, and I also work for Jordan School District.
Oh, sorry, I was writing down. I'm Heidi Condon, I live in St. George, Washington, Dogtown, and I serve in Price area and Vernal.
I'm Valyn Sorensen, and I'm mostly down the bottom half, the left side of Utah. So Iron, Beaver, Miller, Garfield, Wayne, Paiute. Yes, that's it. Mostly, I live in Iron, so that's just.
Next year I'm going to bring the map in here. We're going to have.
Janet Bartholomew. I live in St. George. I serve as part of Washington County, the charter schools in King County.
I'm Megan Gardner, and I live in Salt Lake, but I do the online USD elementary.
Trin Davenport, and I'm the outreach teacher for NEVO, or hearing specialist, or whatever. TODHH. Nobody that works in the district knows what that means, so that's why I have to say hearing specialist.
Yeah.
My name is Candy Bound, and I'm the audiologist for NEVO.
Allison Waldron.
Oh, go ahead.
Riverton, but I work out in Alpine. We're currently kind of dividing. I was covering 50 schools. So
holy cow.
that we're going to be having Amy do some FM system, so that will be changing.
Let's jump back there.
I'm Jenny Albee. I cover Fox Elder, Cash, and Logan outreach.
All right.
I'm Amy Antonini, and I work for Davis.
Great. Glad you came down, that's all.
Susan Lindsay and I work for Davis.
Amy Morris, I work for Alpine School District.
I'm Jill Lang and I work with Problem District and Charter Schools in Newton County.
I was gonna say, we used to be called hearing specialists, but now we're starting to do the teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing. Because when I used to say that, they look at me, so are you a speech or audiologist?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm neither. So,
Sometimes you just have to
yeah.
clarify.
So I'm Elise Farnsworth. I work mostly in Newton County.
Yeah. Awesome. Online or on Zoom. Let's go. Let's have everybody come on. Oh, turn on your cameras, and we'll start at the bottom of my screen, which there's an S. So that's Stephanie. No, Stephanie's up at the top.
Oh.
I don't know who's who. So
Start at the top and
well, we'll start at the top and go. Stephanie. Oh, we can't hear you.
Muted.
We can't hear you. Are you muted or are we muted?
Sorry, that's better. I could do it in sign. Southern Utah audiologist for Utah Schools for the Deaf and Blind. I cover the southwest portion. And if you need anything, I'm faster than a herd of wild donkeys to help you.
Wild donkeys, I love it. Ame.
Hi, my name is Ame Owen. I'm a teacher of the deaf and hard of hearing from Davis School District. I have a full caseload and I also attend, I think, almost all meetings between our district and USDB.
Oh, glad to have you with us. Terry.
Hi, I was there earlier. Sorry, I had to come home. We had a few floods. I live in Pleasant Grove, and our house, we had 3 floods this summer. So we have a plumber here cutting out many walls so that we can replumb our whole house. So I had to rush home. But I am a deaf and hard of hearing specialist with Alpine School District. I work with Allison and Amy, and I've primarily done LSL, but this year we're all kind of covering more because that's what's required. And I'm also doing ASL students.
Woo! Thanks, Miss Terry, I love you.
I want to do some intervention here. Are we okay, Alpine? You guys seem like you're taking on a lot.
We're not okay. We're drowning. But I'll just be honest, we're drowning. And we were given a 20-hour para to help us float longer.
She took
Well,
on some of my things.
I apologize for that.
I'm kind of, if you haven't noticed, especially from the conversation I said earlier, I'm kind of really blunt. I'll just tell you how I feel or what I think about it. So there's my thought.
We'll assume positive intention. Thank you, Carrie. All right, Carrie. Carrie, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Carrie Hicks. I live in Cedar Hills in Utah County. I'm an outreach teacher for Canyons and District and charter schools in Salt Lake County. And I was really hoping to be there in person today, but I came down with a cold this morning. So tomorrow I'll see your faces.
We hope you can join us tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Okay. Leah, sorry. We can't hear you, but we see you yelling at your phone. That's awesome. Oh no. Did she disconnect? She did? Oh, hold on.
She's back. She's just glitchy. Internet problem.
We're gonna try and unmute you.
I don't think she has a bandwidth.
Where's that? It's Leia. Leia, Princess Leia.
Skip me and come back. says to skip her.
Okay, we'll skip